RuneScape 3 Ironman mode kind of just sucks. It feels like you're doing more chores than actually playing the game, which in my opinion is the fundamental idea of Ironman. Actually playing the game as it was intended by using all the skills instead of just buying it. Having to train your crafting up to be able to make that next necklace upgrade instead of just going to the Grand Exchange and buying it. But I feel like nowadays Ironman just kind of feels like a chore and feels like you're just doing dailies and weeklies and monthlies, and there's not really any progression at all either. There's just one linear path. And Ironman bossing with mains, like, there's so many things that I feel like are just wrong with Ironman mode at the moment and stop me from playing it, and I just wanted to talk about in this video. So if you're going to enjoy this video, consider giving it a like, but most importantly, I want to know your opinion in the comment section down below. What is the reason why you are or aren't playing Ironman mode? Sure, there's probably a lot of people that will say, I play Ironman mode because I don't want MTX, and I think that's not a good reason to play Ironman mode, but that is just my opinion, because I feel like you should really enjoy it and not just stay away from MTX because of it. But hey-oh, if that's your reason, that is fine. That is completely fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you do, and let's just get into it. So, first things first, I touched a little bit on the fundamental idea of Ironman mode, but what do I really mean by that? Well, I feel like Ironman mode, in my opinion, is actually playing the game as it's intended. You know, training up your fletching because you need to make those arrows or bolts to be able to train up your range. Or training up your crafting because, yeah, you want to get that amulet upgrade or that gear upgrade for range or whatever it might be. And I feel like the main game doesn't really offer that anymore. Of course, you can do it, but in the time you can train up those skills, you can make 10, maybe 15, maybe 20 times the amount of money that it would cost you to just buy that item, get that upgrade, and then progress further on. And everything I'm going to be talking about in this video anyway is kind of arbitrary, because quite frankly, you should play the game however you want to. Like, if you want to play as an Ironman on a main account, you can do so. If you want to create your own Essence of Finality, you can do so. But I do feel like a lot of RuneScape players in general, and I feel like it's just kind of a RuneScape player thing to begin with, is that you want to do things efficiently as possible. You don't want to waste your time because you know in the back of your mind, this game takes time anyway, and I want to do X content, whether that's PVM, getting a Questscape, getting a Completion Escape, whatever it might be. You know in your back of your head, that will take time. So the more time I can save on stupid grinds, the better. And I feel like that's how a lot of people play. And it goes from min-maxing your account, like playing absolute efficiently, to, you know, just thinking about it a bit long-term instead of short-term, which I'm more in that category. Like, I look at it more so like, oh, I can do this right now and like train up a skill, or I can buy it and then save myself time and then train up the skill later with the money I will make with that upgrade I just made, for example. But Ironman mode should really push you to train up all your skills and actually interact with the skills how they're intended. But I feel like there's not really much use for it. And I think there's two main reasons why that is kind of happening. And one of them is that D&Ds are just way too strong, and in my opinion should not even be available to Ironman. Because if you don't know what D&Ds are, they're your dailies, your monthlies, your weeklies, and everything else in between, like your auras and that kind of stuff. I think auras are fine, like actual aura, besides the Jack of Trade auras. If you don't know what the Jack of Trade aura is, you need to do an action of each skill pretty much. You need to get like an XP drop in different types of skills, depending on the tier of Jack of Trade aura you have. You need to do more skills, but you also get more experience from it. Once you've done all the activities in that skill, you will be getting yourself an XP book, which you can put on any skill of your choosing. And the same goes pretty much with penguins. If you do penguins, you spot all of them, you get XP lamps that you can put on any experience gain that you want for any skill that you want. Usually Herblore and Ironman, because Herblore is usually the more difficult thing to train. But you also have Herbie Werby for Herblore. That pretty much is a Herblore minigame where you also get Herblore XP, making the hardest skill on an Ironman pretty easy to train if you just put all your XP lamps from penguins, Jack of Trades, and Herbie Werby into your Herblore training. And that is kind of the issue. I feel like making Herblore such an easy or pretty much a lampable skill makes farming a lot less relevant either, because the only reason why you usually train farming on an Ironman is, you know, to get your herbs, to get your supplies, to be able to make your potions, which you still need to do, but even so, you can buy your supersets in the area at, it's Mars, I can't think of it, where the Liberation of Mascap, where the Liberation of Mascap is. You can buy supersets there, which are expensive, but you can turn that into extremes, so you can turn that into overloads, technically not needing you to farm any herbs, at least for these supersets. But in general, it kind of devalues farming, and it just has an effect on it. Plus, I just think it feels like if you're not doing it, you're just kind of missing out on your account. And I'm planning on starting a new little side project, which involves an Ironman mode, maybe even a hardcore Ironman mode, because I played Ironman before, but I just don't enjoy it. That's why I'm making this video, because it feels like I need to do those chores. Because if I'm not doing them, I feel like I'm just missing out and just wasting my time on the video game, right? And that's that kind of like efficiency mindset, which is just obviously on me. I could just not do it and enjoy it. Like same with caches. Caches are so good that the actual normal divination training up until Hall of Memories is just pretty much just not worth it, which is just, it's a fundamental flaw in the design of the skill to begin with. But I feel like it just, you know, it kind of just sucks, and it just takes away that little sense of achievement, at least for myself. And yet again, I could just not do it, and that's what I'm planning to do with the new series. But there will be more catches than just that, okay? So stay tuned for that. But I think an even bigger problem is the lack of a progression path. And this is all from the point of view from you don't want to waste any time. Of course, you want to play the game and have fun. That is it. But like I said, I'm kind of assuming that a lot of RuneScape players, especially when you play Ironman, when things take longer to begin with, you don't want to waste your time, especially because you have real life obligations going on, like work or school or whatever, but you still want to enjoy the game. And I can already read the comments saying, oh well, if you don't have the time, then Ironman mode or this game isn't for you. But we all know it is, mate. Like, we all know it doesn't really matter. But still, if you can save some time, it's always nice. And I feel like there's not really a progression path in RuneScape 3. And it's a bit too linear. Before Necromancy, because right now it's just get Necromancy and destroy everything. It's not as simple as that. There are some catches to it. But overall, it pretty much is get Necromancy, destroy everything. Pretty much. Before that, it was magic. And the way you would go about it, roughly said, would be not getting above a certain combat level, so you can farm yourself the Reaper points from the Reaper task that you get. Because at that level, I think it's below 60, you will only get Crosses. And with the beauty of Crosses is you can pretty much zero time by getting your Reaper points, which you will be needing for Hydrixes, which you will need for your gear upgrades later on, like Essence of Finalities and Pastor of the Abysses and all that stuff. You would also be getting zero time pretty much, meaning that you don't have to go out of your way to get it. Crypt Bloom, which is obviously the best tank armor when it comes to magic. Usually what people would do is they would get enough Reaper points to be able to get themselves all the Hydrixes that they would need and all the upgrade from Death that they would like. And then hopefully they have a couple of Crypt Bloom pieces. Depending on how many they have, they would grind the rest out just outside of Crosses. Obviously to get the Crosses, they would get probably 90 Hunter because it's the easiest thing to get. And then, you know, that's your armor sorted. And usually they would use that armor to use the Vanquish, which is a staff that you get for 150 quest points, which is, I think it's a tier 70 or tier 75, to take on Hellweir, to get themselves Jewel Wields, and with those Jewel Wields, they will go to Carapac, and at Carapac, they would create Concentrated Blast, and pretty much once you have that, it will open up the entire game for you, and you can pretty much do all the bosses pretty decently at a nice like efficiency if you are okay at PVM. You don't even need to be a pro at PVM because you would just pop Animate Dead and then you would get it. Obviously, I'm aware that Animate Dead and all these other things have some other requirements and it's not as easy as just doing it, right? Because I believe you need crafting to get your Crypt Bloom up as well. But overall, that's your progression path for combat. There's no need really to get melee or range or whatever. Obviously now it's just get Necromancy and go through it, which is even worse in my opinion. But yeah, it just feels terrible. And I don't want to make the comparison to old school RuneScape too much, because I feel like they are two different games and they have two different mindsets on developing the game and how they run their games, etc. Right? But at the same time, there's nothing else to compare Ironman mode on RuneScape with because, well, there's only one other RuneScape and it's old school RuneScape, right? But please, I don't want to start an entire debate. But there, I feel like because they have bosses where it just is required pretty much to use a specific style, you need to get those other styles. Like, I wanted to go to Barrows to get tank armor to be able to go to DKs, but there I also need range and mage. But to go to Barrows, I need mage, and I need mage gear, so I get that. But why do I want that? Well, because I want to go to Zamorak and then Tombs of Amascut and all these other things. Like, one thing leads you into another, but it also requires you to get different types of gear from every style to be able to get those gear pieces that you want to be able to do certain bosses. And I feel like RuneScape 3 is really lacking that in general, even outside of Ironman mode, where I think having a certain style just being more effective, not just the only one effective, but more effective to certain bosses would be better. But that's also for a different video, which I'll probably talk about at some point as well. But speaking of bosses, it's even the Ironman bossing with mains. I'm fine with Ironman bossing with Ironman because, quite frankly, that introduces group Ironman in a very, fundamental way to the game. Because my main reason why I don't play a normal Ironman on old school RuneScape and I choose to play group Ironman is because I know I can't do the bosses on that game alone. So I would like to do that with my friends. And there's no possibility to unless you play group Ironman. And that's when I was really excited when I heard that Ironman on RuneScape 3 can boss with other Ironman. But now they can also boss with mains, which I feel like what just happens is people just leech it. And it just kind of, I don't know, it's one of those things that I don't really understand. Like, just in general, like, I get it, like, you can play with your friends and stuff, but maybe only allowed, like, actual group bosses, like AOD and that kind of stuff, instead of just everywhere. Because what people now just do is they camp Hellweir on their main and just tank it. Well, it's a bit harder now without enemy dead, but they would just tank it with enemy dead, and then the Iron Man would just farm all the drops, which I don't know. That's a little bit of a picky thing, but this all comes down, in my opinion, and why this video is completely useless, is because Jax's stance is you choose to limit yourself playing Iron Man mode, so kind of deal with it, which I pretty much agree with to an extent, right? Because I feel like what happens in old school a lot is like, oh, this is difficult, and then something happens to Iron Man mode. Like, this is difficult in Iron Man mode, and then something happens, and they will just do an update, and it will make it so much easier for Iron Man. Where I think the whole idea is that, yeah, it is a bit of a challenge. It should be a little bit more difficult to play an Iron Man compared to a main account. Where, for example, when Iron Man first was kind of invented by Bodhi and Foe, you had to mine pure essence to train up your runecrafting, where now you pretty much do Guardians of the Rift, which is a minigame, and you have all the pure essence and essence that you need. Which I'm not saying they just made for Iron Man, but it just shows like it's something that Iron Man really benefit from. Or even just all the pure essence drops that have been added to so many mobs on old school RuneScape because it was difficult for Iron Man to get before even the Guardians of the Rift minigame came out. And I like it that RuneScape 3 just says, you know what, you limit yourself, so deal with it. But I also feel like there should be a more conversational topic going on within RuneScape and the Iron Man community where, there needs to be some integrity to Iron Man, because I feel like it doesn't really have it at the moment. Like, the dailies, the monthlies, and the weeklies are so strong that it pretty much makes it so that you don't have, like, even daily challenges, right? You don't have to do a lot of the content that Iron Man requires you to do, because you can just skip it out. And I feel like having to skip out content by doing quests and getting quest lines from it is fine, right? Because usually these quests are difficult, you have other requirements for it, you need to do all sorts of things for it. Like, that's fine. That's the same thing on old school RuneScape. But you can pretty much get, if you just play your game how you want to, like just, getting your quest done and, getting your gear and your progression, whatever. By the time you need overloads, you'll probably have lamped enough by doing Penguin, Check of Trades, daily challenges, Herbie Werby, etc., to be able to make them. And I feel like that just defeats the point of grinding out seeds and then planting them and then go farming them, etc., which also, in a way, is just a daily and boring and whatever. But what I'm trying to say is that I feel like Iron Man mode and the fundamental idea of playing the game as it's intended, utilizing all the skills to its full potential, is not really a thing on RuneScape 3. And it just kind of sucks, because I would like it to be, because that would be my preferred playstyle, but right now it just doesn't feel like it. I am planning on doing something, like I said earlier in the video, which requires me to, well, not use the D&Ds and play a hardcore and a little bit of a twist, but that will come later on in this year. But I want to know what you think. It's a bit of a ramble, long video, so let me know. Subscribe if you're new, leave a like on the video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. My name's Chevalric. See you guys in my next video, which will probably be Tuesday, hopefully with a roadmap. Please check it, give us content. Goodbye!